Coming to you live on location, this is the Between the Benches podcast, where we will discuss anything and everything hockey related. Let's drop the puck and get the action underway.
All right, everybody, welcome in to a live version of the Between the Benches podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dak. Happy to be with you this evening. We've got a lot to talk about. We are brought to you by Old City Sports Network. Make sure to check out oldcitysports.com, all your favorite blogs, podcasts, articles, everything in between. Check out their merch store as well. You can use the promo code OLDCITY for 15% off site-wide. You can check out our merch section as well and use the code BENCHES15 for 15% off. As always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues. Graham, you were on television today. It didn't go so well, but I did see you on TV. How are we doing, fellas? Big Canada Daddy, Brock Finch, Graham Faw, how are we?
We're doing all right. You know, we took some losses today.
Yeah, all the way around. Everybody took an L today.
A little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll start first. This won't be a very long episode because we will come back to you live Wednesday night with a little bit more little more commentary, a little more, I'll have the stats department break it down. We're going to preview or recap what happened this evening with the just the domination for the Florida Panthers. And shout out to everybody in our Instagram chat, Mason and Big Z. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Happy to have you along with us. If you want to throw into the chat, we'll be more than happy to oblige and answer any questions you have or commentary. But 6-1 or 7-1? Did they get two empty netters? 6-1. Yeah, the Panthers showed up. The first thing I wanted to start with was like Game 6. It looked like the Panthers wanted to just establish more of a physical presence. They had like 58 hits in Game 6, and it just felt like they were looking more to pound their D maybe than to do anything else other than set the tone for Game 7. So, Brock, as our resident Leaf homer, I mean, is this what you expected? I mean, from the jump, it was tough. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the game, the Panthers came out with their asses on fire. And I mean, I think the shot attempts were 21-0 at one point. And then finally the Leafs did get back into the game a little bit. The next, I think the Panthers had the first 8 shots on goal, and then the Leafs had the next 8 on goal or 7 on goal. So it evened out, had a couple breakaway chances. But yeah, give me your initial thoughts and reactions to this game.
Well, frankly, it's unfortunate that what they did is exactly what I expected. The way the first half of the series played out, going down, up 2-0, and then, tied at 2 after 4. Now they played poorly in Game 4, but at this point in the playoffs, they had only had, they had one bad game in the Ottawa series, and now they've only had one bad game in the Florida series, and the rest of the games they've played like things were actually different. The main guys showed up. And you had reason to buy the fact that they can do this. They were clearly just as good as Florida in most of that first half of the series, and then Game 5 happened. And frankly, Game 5 was enough to break me into believing that it's more of just the same. And I believe I mentioned in multiple of my group chats that I think they'll win games in a walk. I predicted a shutout in Game 5, but they ended up squeaking 1. But I said they'll get shut out Game 5, they'll win Game 6, and then lose in pathetic fashion in Game 7. And frankly, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't as bad as Game 5. They showed a little bit more life at points in time, but the second period happened. A great shot from Seth Jones, and well, the rest is history. It was all downhill from there.
Yeah,
and then after they get the start in the third period from Domi, and it's like, well, maybe they can make a push out of this, and 30 seconds later, a softie, a good tip by Louis Duran.
I think it was a tip, but
even still, it's no.
Yeah,
man, we're going to do a lot more about the Leafs going forward, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of my breath here. I think that there's a lot to unpack, and I look forward to doing it at a future date. But frankly, right now, no, I'm not sad. I'm not even surprised.
Bob was great in the first period. He stopped 3 different breakaways. Yeah. And then granted, it wasn't the guys on breakaways that you'd like to see if you're Toronto, obviously, but they took that first wave. I thought honestly, I really did think to myself after the first period, I was like, oh my God, they survived. They got out 0-0. Like Toronto actually might pull this off. Because it very easily, 0. It could have been 2-2, honestly. I mean, you could have
they bent but they did not break after that first period. So there was reason to think maybe this could be like game 1 or 2. But
yeah. It just it's tough.
Nope. Florida's a great team. I want to state that like Florida's a great team. But if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And if you want to be the cup winners, you got to beat cup winners, man. Sorry, it's just how it works. You're not good enough. They haven't been good enough. Frankly, they've never been good enough based on the results and based on the performances of their best players. Yeah. Not good enough. Not good enough.
Graham, did you have any takeaways from the game other than obviously just Florida got to their game and they stayed in their game the whole night?
I think there's been a lot of hope that there's going to be change for the Leafs. And I think the last 2 games they played at home in front of the fans and just the reaction of the fan base in those 2 games, it screams change. Like it can't be ignored. I mean, you got a lot of contracts up, so there's likely going to be change. But what are you going to get from it?
Not our problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, that'll be interesting. And I think to Brock's point, we should dive into that more because you obviously got Tavares, heading out the door.
We've got lots of time to get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We had our first.
Those are your last 2 home games.
I know.
Yeah,
that's a tough look.
I know.
After playing so well on the road and earning Game 7, this is the most games the Leafs have won in the playoffs with this core ever.
Yeah,
and yet.
So kudos to them for at least raising the bar.
Who cares? Oh wow. The bar is on the floor, Graham. The bar's below the floor. Like, don't talk to me about where the fucking bar is.
Well, the 2 big winners that I had tonight, one was Seth Jones. He was great tonight. He played outstanding. He was all over the ice all night long.
How about this? Seth Jones kicks off the scoring, trade deadline acquirement. Brad Marchand, Leafs killer, closes the scoring with the empty net.
Yes.
How's that for poetic justice?
For any team he's played for.
100% poetic. And then the other big winner tonight was the Colorado Avalanche because they got company in the all-time Game 7 losses. They've now, the Leafs and Avalanche are now tied with 7 straight Game 7 losses. So that was the other big winner tonight. Big Z chimed in the chat here. And Canes and Florida matchup is going to be one of the most physical matchups we've ever had in a while as far as the playoffs. So that's actually a really good segue.
Hey, let's jump right in. Yeah, let's jump right in.
Just to cover real quick, before I get your guys' initial thoughts, Carolina was 1-2 against the Panthers this year. The goals for Carolina were 6. Goals for Florida were 13. So it's just definitely they doubled up basically, or more than doubled up. So initial thoughts, Graham. You've kind of been you gave the Canes a little bit of a backhanded compliment. Canes TikTok is not your biggest fan.
Backhanded at all.
Canes TikTok is not your biggest fan. So initial reaction now that we know the Panthers and Canes are going to be squaring up in the ECF. Who do you think it tilts toward?
I've only said nice things about Carolina. I don't understand this hate, but you know what? I'll take it. It.
TikTok is never wrong, Graham. And you said what you said.
It's fair.
Yeah.
But no, I think Carolina's going to be a really tough team to beat, just like they always are. But they always seem to get beat by the better teams. And I think New Jersey wasn't that hard of a team without Jack Hughes.
Wasn't healthy.
Washington, we didn't know what to expect. They were great in the regular season, so it's hard not to expect them to continue to be great. But again, they were more of a wild card, not a wild card team, but just a wild card as to like what you're going to expect.
Yeah.
And now I think this is the biggest test that they're going to face in the playoffs, which, I mean, it's not surprising. It's the conference final.
Right.
But no, I think Carolina's been great. I think that they're not going to lose. I think if the series doesn't go their way, I think they just get beat. And I also think the same for Florida. Like Carolina has to beat Florida. Neither one of these teams are going to lose in either round.
Okay. Big Z also mentioned Carolina's progress throughout the season has been miraculous. I honestly think it can go to a Game 7, but I have a feeling they can pull it off as long as they can match and overcome the Panthers' physicality. So, Graham, you mentioned on our last podcast that, speed is going to be a big factor for beating Carolina, being able to, obviously kind of maybe break them down. Brock, you mentioned not allowing Carolina to kind of get downhill and get Carolina on their heels a little bit is Is Florida a team that can put Carolina on their heels? I mean,
Whoa.
it seems that Florida can impose their will on basically anybody they want to. So, I mean, previewing this, how do you feel going into that series?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. For my money, the best team left in these playoffs is the Florida Panthers. From top to bottom, structurally, like there are very little weaknesses. They can beat you multiple ways. I don't think the same can be said about Carolina, which is why I do think Florida will win this series. If we're doing predictions.
Yeah.
But I do think it's not going to be like last year where it's 4-0 and Rod Brindamore is saying, well, it wasn't really a sweep, you know?
Right.
Well, it was. I know the games are close, but you did get swept. You didn't actually win. No one remembers the scores of those games, Rod. Sorry. No one remembers the scores. They just remember that you lost. So
right.
I do think this game goes at least this series goes at least 6 or 7. I absolutely believe that. And I think it'll be very physical. I think you're going to see Freddie kind of wilter a bit here. I think he's been, riding a bit high. He's playing great. I'm not saying it's going to be his fault. He starts, letting softies. I'm just saying I think you're going to start to see Freddie show, more of his human side. If that's the turn of phrase it is the turn of phrase I'm going to go with.
Yeah. No, that was going to be my next question was, do we see a Freddie Anderson revenge series in this series? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a revenge series. It'd be more Toronto, but he's definitely going to be the key for the Canes moving forward into this series for sure. He has to continue his hot play. He has to continue to be the best goalie in the playoffs that he's shown to be so far. As far as, I guess, the Canes' perspective, this is going to be the third or fourth ECF behind with Brindamore at the bench. They're winless in all of their Eastern Conference Finals appearances. So, I mean, that does start Tuesday night, I believe, because I think the Western Conference begins on Wednesday. So, I mean,
stupid. Why?
Well,
the West is done. The West is done.
Is the rest going to be a huge factor in this series moving forward, Graham, do you think?
I think it usually plays a factor in most series. I mean, I feel like there could be a sweet spot. Like too much rest may not be the best, but you also don't want to go straight into another series after getting banged up immediately. So one thing I do want to say about this series is I think the depth goes to Florida. These two teams have the best penalty kills. Florida has a weaker power play.
Well,
yeah, Svechnikov has been on a tear, by the way. Mikko Rantanen's the only man that has scored more goals in the playoffs than Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah, and this is all for the postseason, what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
To clarify.
Right,
yes.
right.
To clarify.
Allegedly.
Big Z also chimed back in. He believes it's going to be a low-scoring games for the rest of the playoffs in the East and the West. Almost all the teams rely on the defensive part. If Freddie Anderson keeps on the pace, it will help a lot. It boosts morale and stuff like that. If the offense gets past Bob and under his skin, they can crumble the whole Panthers organization. Man,
listen, Z, you do know that Edmonton exists in the West, right?
Yeah, I was
going to say
Dallas
Edmonton exists.
I mean, Dallas has
on D. No,
yeah. That's not to say Edmonton hasn't been playing great defense. They have. They really have. Those 2 shutouts by Skinner weren't necessarily completely by Skinner's performance. Yeah. They played great defense.
27-minute shutouts.
They play great defense. Now. But Edmonton can put up a 5 spot really friggin' quickly, really quickly.
Yeah. So, well, we will. As far as previewing that, we'll definitely jump back on here live. We'll be live Wednesday night to kind of recap Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, get more of your picks, analysis, stuff like that. To transition into the West, we had a great Game 6. I guess I'd be remiss as a podcast if we didn't send our T's and P's to the Mark Scheifele household, everybody in the Scheifele household. I can't imagine what was going in through his mind into that locker room, everything else in between. They finally got a great start from Hellebuck on the road. Go ahead, Brock.
While we're on acknowledging the Scheifele situation, apparently the owner of the Dallas Stars flew Scheifele on his private jet back to Winnipeg after the game to be with his family. So shout out the Dallas owner. That's very nice.
Yes.
Very
he's
nice.
definitely getting
He gets to see. Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
There was a lot of class throughout Dallas.
Yeah, they had raised over $30,000 for one of Scheifele's main charities, I believe, through $55 donation. So
yes,
always good to see that it's bigger than sports. Obviously they can hate each other. I thought the funniest, or not maybe the funniest, but like the most kind of roundabout moment was literally like one of the first guys to hug Scheifele in the handshake line was Jimmy Benn, and that was the guy who literally sucker punched him at the end of Game 5, and they were like one of the first guys to handshake and hug in that line. So I thought that was a great moment. But man, that was just a great hockey game all around. I mean, Scheifele opens the scoring in that game as well, which I thought was just Brock, good call. We've talked before,
anytime goal scorer,
you got to put money on that guy for sure. And it, sure did come about, but they just could not get through. They couldn't get past Ottinger. They had a couple chances in the third period there to really get, that insurance goal or to get that, I guess, game, whatever you want to call it, the go-ahead goal. I don't know if it was going to be the game-winning goal, but I mean, what are your takeaways moving away, obviously, from that game? And then obviously previewing, Stars and Oilers moving into the Western Conference Finals.
Well, before we get into that, I just have a little fun fact. When you brought up Jamie Benn's hit on Scheifele.
Sucker punch?
The sucker punch.
Okay.
Yeah. So that happened on May 15th. Do you know what else happened May 15th? Years ago, of a Texas team against a Canadian team?
No.
That is when Jose Batista got punched in the face.
Okay.
For the Rangers and Blue Jays game? Yes, that's right.
When you just punch Canadians if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Nice.
Canadian Pinata Day. All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay. That's a fun fact. But yes, getting us back on track here.
But yeah, as far as like the takeaway from the Jets and Stars series.
We haven't I thought we were moving into the preview.
I mean, either one.
So we haven't said this yet. This is the same conference finals we had last year.
Yes.
So with that being said, I think it's interesting how both teams are stronger in certain areas and maybe not noticeably weaker, but definitely weaker in other areas. For example, like Edmonton's goaltending was nowhere near as sus last year coming into any series, really. Like Skinner was playing, I'm not going to say stellar, but adequate. He was playing adequately. Whereas this year, nowhere near the story. Now, that also being said, flip it over to Dallas, and they now have a nuke. Mikko Rantanen has arrived, and I think this is a very different, very strong Dallas team. Their core, like Harley, has arrived.
I was gonna say hot take. I got a hot take for you guys too.
I just don't see many holes in this now that Heiskanen's back in this Dallas lineup. I think this will be the best series of the two series. I think that this is going to be must-watch all the way.
It's gonna be a war.
I don't care how many. Actually, I do care. I want 6 or 7 games. I want 7 games of this because I think it's going to be incredible hockey. I think 100%. We should be absolutely. I want to be spoiled. Keep spoiling me. These playoffs have been fantastic outside of one particular series.
So my hot take, I was thinking about this last night as I was watching that game, and obviously Miro Heiskanen is definitely you could definitely tell he's getting his game back. He's the way he's exiting the zone through the first period, even the second period, you could tell that his health is coming all the way back. But I think for my money, they have the best D combo in the league between Heiskanen and Harley. I don't know how big of a hot take that is. Obviously, you got Makar, and forgive me, I'm blanking on Gerard. Taze. You got Taze, and in Colorado. Obviously, Carolina's got some good D pairs. But I think pound for pound, there is no D pair that I would rather have more than Heiskanen and Harley now.
They're not a pair, though. They normally just play away from each other. Think of it like Hedman and Sergachev for the Tampa runs. That's more of what I see from Heiskanen and Harley.
Okay.
Just my opinion, because they're
fair.
both left-handed and they normally play away from each other.
Yeah, that's fair. And then also another fun fact, was it Colin Steele?
Sam Steele.
Right? Or Sam Steele, sorry. I'm confused. I'm mixing Colin Blackwell and Sam Steele together. My fault. But Sam Steele hadn't scored in 36 games. The last time he scored before scoring last night, literally Leap Day. He scored February 29th. So that was a fun little stat. And then the other fun stat I had here is Pete DeBoer has now made the Western Conference Finals 6 out of the last 7 years, and he's been fired twice.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's been fired twice in that span.
That is a fun one.
There is no job security in that position.
No, not at all. So that's going to be arguably the greatest. Like this might be one of the greatest series that we will get hopefully in recent memory.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be the most entertaining. I still think that the Florida Carolina series is going to be almost more of like a coin flip. It's going to be low event hockey. It's going to be very physical. There's going to be very little space when you have the puck. But I think of just the offensive prowess that both these teams have. Now the depth obviously goes to Dallas, but the superstar, like you're not. No one can shut down McDavid or Draisaitl.
Well, I would say
I think Dallas's best player has to be Ottinger.
It could be.
I think it has to continue to be Ottinger.
He has not been their best player. He's been great, but Rannon's been their best player.
Yes.
Respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
On any other team, it would be Ottinger.
Sure.
He has been
He has
unbelievable.
been fantastic. He has been absolute stellar. Who has the best goalie? I don't think it's close. Who's Henny?
What we got
Henny,
here?
I don't know. Using
our names for clicks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Must be a Leafs fan, unfortunately.
Maybe.
Sorry, Henny. We have a residence Leaf homer here, so I don't.
Yeah, sure do.
I hope you don't see it as just getting clicks, but yeah, it's going to be a great series. I'm hoping that, I hope both these series go 7. Honestly, I think it's going to be fascinating. You've got so many contradicting styles. I think you have obviously. I think Dallas. I don't know. Is Dallas the most well-rounded team?
Yes.
I mean, I don't. Okay. No, even out of the 4 teams left, out of everybody, that includes Florida, that includes Carolina. Okay. So we can all agree on that. But I kind of did hint at this, I think before we did our bracket episode, that we were destined for a Florida and Dallas Stanley Cup final. And as much as I thought it was kind of joking, it would actually be so entertaining right now. But
sure would.
I definitely, Graham, to your point, when you were talking about the physicality of Winnipeg, you could definitely see it in Game 6. They were definitely the more physical team. I don't want to rewind and backtrack us here, but I remember watching that game and I was like, man, Winnipeg is just throwing the body at Dallas.
But he also
no
said
care whatsoever.
Dallas wasn't going to be physical, and
they
weren't physical at all.
Winnipeg out physical them? They were more physical?
I don't think so.
In terms of the series?
No.
From what I've watched, yeah.
I don't think so. That's just my take, but I don't think so.
But I do think Edmonton's interesting in the fact that Ekholm's going to return.
At some point, that is correct. They don't expect him back for Game 1.
He's supposed to miss the first 2 for sure.
And that's going to make their penalty kill a whole lot better.
It's always interesting when someone comes back from injury without a lot of reps.
They're humming, man. They're humming without him. It's going to be interesting when he gets put back in. There'll be some growing pains for sure.
How they're going to use him.
Yeah.
How close he is to 100% when he's being used.
Well, look at Heiskanen when he first came back the first couple games. There's some, minor warts that, they got ironed out. He looked great. He looks great. He looks great.
Other question too. As Dallas continues to play, do you see them shifting back to a 12-6 lineup instead of playing the 11-7 lineup? Because they have been playing 7 defensemen.
I didn't even know they were playing 11 and 7.
Yeah, Mikko Rantanen, I think through 2 periods had almost 16 minutes time on ice. I can look up real quick how much total time on ice he had, but he definitely looked a little gassed.
I'd ride him into the sunset.
Well, that's the thing is how I mean. Can you ride him for another series or 2? For
Who
that
cares?
long? Because he's used
scoring
to playing 18 minutes.
He's scoring at will. Who cares?
I mean, I could see Dallas going up 3 goals and be like, all right, Brandon.
Yeah, then you rest him.
Off.
Yeah.
But they haven't had the luxury of doing that. They have gone through the gauntlet.
Yeah, he played 24 minutes.
Colorado
against
Winnipeg. There's not a lot of breathing room in these games. I think Dallas had maybe one statement game against Colorado.
Maybe.
But besides that, they're all close games where your big guys need to be on the ice.
Yeah, that's fair. And Big Z was in the comments again. He says, I feel as more time goes on and more games are played, although it might not be as eventful, I think, and he's talking about Dallas here, I think that they can just keep getting faster and faster. So he believes that the war of nutrition is going to favor Dallas in that series, which would almost seem a little backward just because I think Edmonton's only played, 11 games? Right, 11 total because they won in 6, and then they beat whatchamacallit in 5. They beat the forgive me. They beat the who'd they beat, guys? They beat the Vegas. Thank you. Yeah, Anyway, but I don't know. We'll see how the war of nutrition goes for that. So
I think the confidence has got to be high for Dallas. Look at who you've just beat.
Right.
They have not had an easy matchup. Period. End of sentence.
No.
And it's only going to get harder.
It's the
literally
hardest
gonna get
road
harder.
to the cup that
Yes.
you can have.
Yes.
100%.
Dallas has been playing the toughest teams the whole time. Period. End of sentence.
Last note too on Dallas and Edmonton. This tells you like where Dallas is, I think, mentally and as a group. So Peter DeBoer, after last night's game, he was asked about being Canadian and being pulled in different directions when facing when the Stars face a Canadian team, and he answered with, "Right now, I'm Finnish." So
Hell yes.
So
yes.
You could definitely tell that they got a good room right now.
That. Hell yeah.
They're definitely in a good place mentally, and it's really showing. You could definitely tell the gelling of this team has really come together. Is Robertson ever going to show up? That's really my question too. They really haven't gotten anything from Robertson. Wyatt Johnston's been great. Obviously, Mikko Rantanen has been the nuclear weapon that Brock referred to. But
he is officially a nuke in my mind. He's a nuke.
Yeah,
this man's been unbelievable.
Waiting to go off. Yeah. That's absolutely. So, but we will definitely come back to you live on Wednesday night. We'll recap Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals on Tuesday. You can feel free to check us out. We will be live from our Instagram. We'll be live on the Old City Sports Network, Facebook, and YouTube pages. Did you guys have anything else to add before we call it a night?
Two good rounds. Can't wait for another.
Yes, I think to say this has arguably been the best playoffs that we've seen. Oh, by the way, this was the first Game 7 that there wasn't a multi-goal comeback in this postseason too. So,
I'll have more predicted that.
Yeah, I'll have more Game 7 stats for you. Also, Nathan McKinnon hasn't won a Game 7 yet. Austin Matthews hasn't won a Game 7 yet.
He's had more chances in Game 7s. I'll tell you that.
What?
Matthews and Marner.
Yeah, that's
Marner,
fair.
Nylander.
That's
Tavares.
I can't wait to get on that episode over
Riley.
the summer. Like, what are we gonna? If we're just gonna tell you to play the GM of the league.
Like I said, we're in the works of prepping some stuff, and now that they've lost the same way that they always lose, it's very, very apropos, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Does home ice make any advantage at all in either series? Do you think? No, not
I
at
think
all.
it always plays a factor.
No.
Okay.
How big? I don't know. I think every team involved, like, they're good on the road too.
No.
But when you got your fans behind you, yeah.
For me, it doesn't matter at this stage. To me, it matters little to begin with, but I don't think so personally.
Yeah, and we'll definitely see the rest versus rust. I still think that might make a difference in that, especially on that eastern side of the bracket. But we'll definitely see. Like I said, we will be back with you on Wednesday night. We are the Between the Benches podcast. Feel free to check us on the socials, Instagram. Oh, Marner to Philly is what Big Z is mentioning, by the way. Talking wants more players for a quick rebuild. That's interesting. Could you imagine that?
We got 2 rounds of playoffs left. I'm not doing any off-season shit until we're actually in.
I was gonna say we'll definitely do some.
I'm not doing that yet. No,
we'll throw some darts on the maps coming up. He's coming to Chicago, Big Z. I got news for you. But like I said, we are the Between the Benches podcast. Check us on Instagram, TikTok, everything else in between, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate everybody joining us this evening. And we'll be back with you on Wednesday night, presented by Old City Sports Network. Check us out then. We'll see you guys later.